Today is the final match of the 2025 Kriegsspiel Cup, a global tournament organized by the IKS, the International Kriegsspiel Society. And yes, our club did make it all the way to this year's final match. The final match is happening live today in our club, and we're going to be hosting over a dozen players in less than 50 minutes. While we wait to start the finals, we're going to recap the early tournament knockout rounds and show you what led to this moment. And then we will play the live final match in person right here and find out if our club will be lifting the trophy again. Oh yeah, I guess I should have mentioned, we are the defending Cup champions from 2024, so no pressure or anything. Just about every wargamer has probably heard of Kriegsspiel. In German, it translates to wargame, and it originated as a German word because the first proper Kriegsspiel was developed during the Napoleonic Wars by a Prussian officer named von Reiswitz. The Prussian king was fascinated by this new game, but it was not until more than a decade later in the 1820s when von Reiswitz's son popularized Kriegsspiel as a formal training tool within the Prussian military. Fast forward about 200 years, and here we are. Kriegsspiel has evolved countless times, but some form of it is still being played all over the world by militaries and civilian hobbyists. The original 1824 rules, published in German, spawned hundreds of variations, but the fundamental principles remain essentially unchanged. Umpired play, double-blind fog of war, limited communication, and map-based movement. Today, the International Kriegsspiel Society counts over 4,000 global members who keep these traditions alive, with largely online play, primarily using Discord. One of IKS's founders is here today at Little Wars TV headquarters for the finals of this tournament.
It's a dream come true to be here at the Little Wars Clubhouse playing with our friends and popularizing this what I think is a better way to wargame. The hard part of running a Kriegsspiel isn't resolving the combat. It's not the rules. It's actually managing the whole experience for people. And that's what I like to talk to other people about, is how you do all that other stuff, because any wargamer can roll the dice and do all that. I learned, I kind of self-taught in around 2010 that I had influences from the Kriegsspiel News Forum, which are the guys in the UK who play Kriegsspiel. And I had another friend, his name was Brett Bailey. He's actually from the UK and learned Kriegsspiel, I believe, from them. And he kind of shared some knowledge and stuff with me. So I do stand on the shoulder of giants, but I also kind of popularized it because during COVID in particular, I had this group called the Southern California Kriegsspiel Society, where we would just meet and run games in Los Angeles. And during COVID, we were homebound, and one of my friends, his name was Michael Sheeter, he says, hey, why don't you use this thing called Discord and Tabletop Simulator to run these games? So I figured out how to do it, and originally it was very crude with 3 different computers going at the same time. But we went from there, and I attracted a group of people who were avid gamers and some who are also familiar with Kriegsspiel, and we turned the group into the International Kriegsspiel Society and turned it into this big welcoming community. Now there are several thousands of members who count themselves as part of the group. It doesn't cost anything. You can come and play in our games. We have live games. We have play-by-post games. So if you don't have 3 or 4 hours to sit through a live game, you can play by post. And it's just a wonderful, fantastic experience. It's played double-blind with simultaneous movement. It's umpired. There's delays and dispatches and communications and order implementation. And it really gets in your head.
Yeah, I can attest, it does kind of get in your head. I shouldn't be nervous because I realize this is just a game, but we do really want to win. It's the second year that IKS has run this event, and last year, Little Wars TV beat our arch rivals, Mark's Game Room, in a hard-fought 1862 American Civil War Kriegsspiel to claim victory in the first ever IKS Cup. And as the reigning champions, we were given a fast pass into the finals this year, with 4 other teams competing in the quarter and semi-final matchups. All of the cup games were umpired by one of IKS's most experienced umpires. His name is James, and he has also flown to Pennsylvania for this year's final match to umpire our live game.
This year in the second annual Kriegsspiel Cup, we had 5 teams participate. The International Kriegsspiel Society, the Little Wars TV Discord team, Mark's Game Room, the Lawton Redcoats, and then Little Wars TV. We'd love to have more wargaming clubs and groups sign up to play in our 3rd annual Kriegsspiel Cup next year. We'll see you then. Before we get to this year's finals, I'll give you a quick recap of the earlier knockout rounds. For the quarterfinals, I ran 2 identical sessions of the Battle of Raphia, fought in 217 BC between the Alexandrian successor kingdoms of Ptolemaic Egypt and the Seleucids. Polybius describes this battle in some detail, and it pits Ptolemy IV and Antiochus III on an open plain near Gaza. We selected this particular battle for the cup because the forces are evenly matched. The Egyptians enjoy a slight advantage in phalanx infantry, but the Seleucid Asian elephants were known to be better than the African elephants fielded by Ptolemy. The teams in our first game were Mark's Game Room, last year's runner-up, versus the Minutemen, a team recruited from Little Wars TV Patreon Discord server. This game was played on April 5th, 2025. The guys from Mark's Game Room adopted a traditional deployment with cavalry and elephants on both flanks. They positioned their best infantry on the right. The Minutemen took a less conventional approach, overloading their right wing with all the cavalry and elephants. Interestingly, they left a gap in the center of their phalanx. I suspect they may have been emulating Alexander's false gap tactic. Both sides immediately rushed to attack. The heavily concentrated Seleucid cavalry and elephant force smashed the Egyptians in short order, while the Egyptians attacked directly through the gap in the center with great success. The battle would be decided on the left, where the Egyptians were aided by a combined arms force. Perhaps seeking to emulate Alexander the Great, Ptolemy charged into the action to force the issue. Tragically, just when it seemed he would win the engagement, the Egyptian king was killed on the front line. His death shattered the morale of the Egyptian left wing, ending the battle. I suspect with just a little more patience, Mark's Games Room would have ground out a victory. But today, a rash attempt at heroic leadership backfired. The Little Wars TV Minutemen advanced to the semifinals. Later that same day, on April 5th, I umpired Raphia again for the Lawton Redcoats and the official IKS team, drawn from our members. Unlike the first game, both sides opted for denser formations with double lines of infantry. The Redcoats, playing as the Seleucids, cleverly hid some light infantry in the hills and held their heavy cavalry back as a rear reserve. The teams in this battle were a cagier bunch, hanging back with their pike phalanxes and probing on the wings with cavalry and light troops. When the Egyptians gained the upper hand on the left, the Seleucids committed their heavy cavalry reserve to shore up the flank. It may have been a premature decision, because a dangerous gap soon opened on the right, and Egyptian heavy cavalry poured through the opening, attacking the Seleucid phalanx in the rear. Caught between cavalry in the rear and pikes crashing down to their front, the Seleucid center routed, handing the IKS team a decisive win. For the 2 teams that advanced to the semifinals, I selected an American Civil War action, the Battle of Hoover's Gap in late June 1863. I picked Hoover's Gap in part because the Tullahoma campaign in Tennessee featured a lot of maneuver, and this would give both sides the chance to maneuver to contact. I kept this last bit a secret from the players, but as the umpire I took some liberties with the historical orders of battle to give both sides 3 divisions. Our Hoover's Gap Kriegsspiel was inspired by real events, but assumes Hardy did not withdraw prematurely from the area. Here was the situation I presented the opposing teams when we played on May 16, 2025. George Thomas Corps, 3 divisions, played by the IKS, was approaching Beech Grove. Meanwhile, to the south of them, the Minutemen approached Fairfield with 3 divisions of Hardy's Corps. The Confederates aimed to split the 2 columns and secure good defensive terrain anchored by wooded hills on their left and a creek on their right. The Union approach to battle seemed to play right into rebel hands. The IKS team ordered a 3-pronged advance that would, in theory, run into the teeth of the rebel defensive position. As an umpire, I love seeing the best-laid Kriegsspiel plans play out, because they rarely unfold like anyone planned. Remember, these are double-blind games, so the map you see here is the view I enjoyed as the umpire, and you can already see the problem developing for both sides. Their leading divisions, Breckinridge and Negley, made contact in the mid-morning, while the rest of the troops were still strung out in long road march columns. Taking advantage of good defensive terrain, Breckinridge repulsed Negley's probing attacks. Instead of reinforcing Breckinridge and adapting to the battle, the Confederate commanders stuck to the original plan, with Cleburne and Stuart deploying the majority of their strength on the right. The Union Army took the opposite approach, quickly changing their battle plan on the fly and ordering Brandon's division to coordinate with Negley and focus on Breckinridge. This shift to the flank put the Union right in the air, but by stubbornly remaining on defensive footing, Cleburne failed to advance pickets and detect the move. Remember, you're looking at the Umpire's map. At this critical moment in the game, the rebels only saw this map. Without pickets probing forward, they were blind to the Union movements and couldn't detect a golden opportunity to counterattack and unhinge the entire Federal line. As is so often the case in war, opportunities can be fleeting. Rousseau's division was approaching from the north to reinforce, so when Cleburne finally did move forward in the early afternoon, the IKS team had a newly arrived reserve to counter the rebel advance. Players in these Kriegsspiel games are often tempted to commit their generals to the front line to gain a better map view. The frustration of this fog of war lured General Hardee forward in the center as he ordered Cleburne's division to swing north. Riding along the front lines seeking information about the location of the enemy position, Hardee was hit with a mini-ball. As news spread of his possible death, Breckinridge finally gave way on the rebel left. By late afternoon, the Confederate divisions were in full retreat from the field, leaving the IKS team victorious at Hoover's Gap. The 2025 tournament bracket looks like this, with the IKS's own team advancing to meet 2024's reigning champion, Little Wars TV.
All right, do you guys think you're up to speed? Good, because we've got over a dozen people inside the club. It's pretty loud. I came outside, but I really ought to be getting back in there. Our Little Wars TV team is set up inside in the parlor, and the IKS team is in the Crusader Castle wing. The umpires are downstairs in the basement. James has 2 assistant umpires who are helping to carry messages and take orders from the players. Today is July 23rd, but this Kriegsspiel actually began all the way back May 26th on Discord. Our umpire, James, sent the players a campaign map of the region south of the Danube. Both teams were provided an order of battle and short briefing of the situation. It's November 1805, and the leading elements of the Grande Armée are pursuing the Russo-Austrian rearguard. This is all part of the prelude to Austerlitz. I think it might be fun to tell you the story of the approach to battle just from our perspective, the Little Wars TV team. And maybe that'll give you a sense of the stress and pressure and fog of war that James talked about a minute ago. So here we are. Our team plays as the French. We have a division of Lannes Corps, a single light cavalry division from Murat's Reserve Cavalry Corps, and a late arriving brigade as expected reinforcements. When? We aren't sure. Where are the Austrians and the Russians, you might be wondering? Yeah, so were we. James told us that they were believed to be around Amstetten. How many? We have no idea. Our orders, sent down by the Emperor, are to pursue the retreating enemy column and capture his supply wagons, which were last spotted rolling east toward Amstetten. We've been told this is a pursuit mission, and that speed is of the essence. Notice that I've said, we've been told, because I've played enough of these double-blind events to know that you can't always trust your briefing. My role in the game is Marshal Murat. I command a single division. Miles is Oudinot, Chris is Dupont, John is Ruffin, and Ed is our overall commander, Marshal Lannes. I'll allow my fellow Marshal to assume command of this recap and show you our approach to battle.
We are in pursuit of an enemy force which we believe to be roughly similar to our own, and which the Emperor expects us to overtake in the vicinity of Amstetten by the end of the day. So our orders are clear. Get to Amstetten, and once there, capture the enemy wagons. Each turn in this portion of the Kriegsspiel represented 30 minutes of time. We played on Discord, submitting new orders every few days to the umpire. I could only see screenshots based on my physical location on the map, so as the commander I was relying on my fellow generals to send me written dispatches and updates. Just as in baseball it's occasionally proper to ignore the book, so too in battle. I was convinced that had we followed conventional wisdom and remained concentrated while following our enemy into the increasingly rugged terrain west of Amstetten, we'd have been cut off and hacked to pieces in short order, making the 1842 British retreat from Kabul look like a church picnic. Proof of this theory came almost immediately when at 8:30 The distant thumping of cannon to the east was heard. Hohenloh's Austrian cavalry had laid a well-placed ambush alongside the road and baited our vanguard cavalry into a bloody repulse. The Little Wars team has no finer general than Gregg, so this setback really stung. Doubly so for me, as the fault was mine. The terrain was such that light infantry, rather than light cavalry, ought to have been given the scouting role. Murat's horse artillery drove back the enemy, but his troopers and horses requested an hour to recover and reform. This unwelcome news was accompanied by fresh intelligence from Murat's flank patrols. Russian Jaegers were spotted north and south of the main road. While we recovered from the ambush, I felt this was the time to split the column into two. If we wanted to catch the enemy wagons and make up time, we couldn't continue to be bottlenecked on a single road. A close look at the map revealed what seemed to be easier terrain far to the north. I dispatched Miles and John on this blue route, intending for them to skirt around enemy positions in the center and end up east of Amstetten. There was some debate among the subordinates about which route to take, with Gregg arguing against going too far to the north. I wanted to develop a wider flanking effort with my eye on converging on Amstetten from east and west, hoping to turn the enemy out of their positions and forcing them into the position of having to attack us. It was vital that Miles fully understood my intent, because we would likely be completely out of contact once our movement began. I knew I could rely on that wily old fox. Our center column would feign as if to support Miles, but then move southeast, where they would eventually join with the newly arrived reinforcements. I directed these reinforcements south because taking the main road direct to Amstetten made it less likely they would become lost. I was also willing to cheerfully accept the delay in their arrival because I thought it was even money that their commander carried orders for my relief. I remained with the main column in the central sector, and we resumed the march after a 1-hour delay caused by my bumbling with orders. I wonder what my opponents thought of this mysterious delay. Frankly, it may have helped by convincing the enemy that Miles's command was the main effort. Finally underway to take off pressure on Miles's drive around the north, it didn't take long to find the enemy blocking our path yet again. Murat eagerly avenged his earlier ambush by sneaking a chasseur regiment down a parallel road and catching the Jaegers from behind. The entire enemy regiment threw down their arms and surrendered as our prisoners. At this point, I ordered our column to veer southeast and take a dirt track to bypass the main road and drive on Amstetten. It had now been almost 2 hours since we received any word from Miles in the north. Either messages were getting delayed, or worse still, enemy troops could be between us and intercepting them. His last known position was here, but by estimating his likely rate of march, I think his column could be somewhere in this area. Early in the afternoon, a final Discord message arrived from our umpire. The operational map phase of the Kriegsspiel was over, and it was time to transition to the tabletop for battle. This is our last known map report. We are essentially operating in the dark. We have not located the main body of the enemy. We don't know where the wagons are. I have no contact with our northern flanking column, and our forces are widely dispersed. My fellow generals are extremely anxious, and perhaps for good reason. But I maintain we are in a good position, converging on Amstetten from 2 directions as planned. Yes, we're an hour behind schedule, but overall it's been a good morning for us. Now, where is the enemy?
I have some bad news for anyone watching this video rooting for the French. Here's the position of the Russo-Austrian rearguard at midday. They are well concentrated around Amstetten with reinforcements close at hand. The French are dangerously dispersed and could be in a lot of trouble as we enter the tabletop portion for the finals. Their southern reinforcements are so far from the action that it's not even certain they'll arrive in time to participate in the fight. But of course, the only person with the full picture is me, the game umpire. If the French have any hope of winning this battle, it's that the fog of war may have given the Allies a dash of overconfidence. Just after midday, here's what the IKS team can see. They've detected only 2 of the 3 French columns, and their advance pickets have led them to believe that Oudinot's northern column could be the main French effort. They feel confident going into the battle that they have a good picture of the French movements, but it's deceptively incomplete. The question as we move to the tabletop is which team will be able to put the puzzle together fast enough to win. This morning, I assembled both teams and explained the rules of the Kriegsspiel. The two teams will play in separate rooms and use miniatures to visualize the location of their regiments. On the French side, Miles is a special case. As long as his column is so far separated from the rest of the army, he'll have to remain isolated and only communicate via written dispatches. This is my umpire area, where I and my assistant umpires process messages, enforce communication delays, and resolve combat for the players. This is an important part of traditional Kriegsspiel and makes it very different from the kind of miniature wargaming you normally see on this channel. Kriegsspiel players do not generally roll dice or resolve the mechanics of combat. Umpires handle these duties, and we inform the players of the outcome. That allows the commanders to focus on issuing orders and dispatching messages. And as we begin this phase of the action, the French are focused on puzzling out the true state of the battlefield, and I think they're worried for a good reason.
So we're about 30 minutes into this, and boy, the fog of war is heavy on this. We're getting reports of what the Allies are doing, and having a little bit of trouble making sense of what their plan is. It appears that they're making a stand out here in front of Amstetten, which, to be honest, is just not what we expected.
And with Miles halfway across the battlefield, it's hard to know what's going on over there. We think he's coming in towards Amstetten from behind, and there's some, according to some dispatches we got, Austrians retreating away, withdrawing towards Amstetten, but it's tough to get communications across to him.
I'm not sure if we're in an amazing position or a terrible one, because we're collapsing on them from two directions, which could be amazing, but it's also very difficult to coordinate when you are as divided as we are divided.
Yeah, those double involvements never work. Never work.
This is going to be a spectacular French victory, or
Spectacular French defeat.
Is there some ice that we can shoot?
So, the French are attacking in two major groups. Dupont and the cavalry under Murat are attacking up to the west of Amstetten. And then Oudinot has done a large flanking march around the north, is currently deployed on this ridge and in the town here below. And he's facing Nostitz, who's deployed on this ridge. But at this very moment, he's got a large flanking attack under Ruffin coming in from the north. So we'll see how that goes. But the coalition has the Austrian reinforcements under Melvelt arriving near Amstetten right now. The coalition has the advantage of interior lines in a smaller area. The French have difficulty with Oudinot so far away. His communication with Lannes is about 20 to 30 minute delay. So there's not a lot of coordination they can do. So if the coalition successfully focused on one or the other, they could be defeated in detail. So far, the coalition's pretty much split themselves in half. So the reinforcements under Melveld are coming up the road right now as we speak, and they can be either deployed to assist Nostitz in defeating Oudinot, or deploying here at Amstetten to defeat Dupont. One or the other. If they're deployed well, they'll have a short period of time where they have numerical superiority over the French. Umpires are processing the battle in 10-minute increments right now, and at this stage it's effectively two battles, with the French on the attack in both. But Allied counterattacks are brewing, and they are the most dangerous kind, the kind the French don't see coming. Hohenlohe cleverly left a regiment tucked into a ravine at the end of the online approach to battle phase of the game. The northern French column lost track of the Austrians and failed to inform Lannes that his force existed at all, so Hohenlohe is now moving to attack the rear of Murat's cavalry in a nasty surprise. Meanwhile, to the east, Oudinot is about to find himself fighting on two fronts.
It's a swirling battle. I started the battle opposed by just one Grenzer brigade of 4 battalions. I am now opposed by 2 Austrian battalions. We're still going to press the attack in the north, but I've pulled back from the south. I am tying up the 2 Austrian brigades. Hopefully the rest of the army can press home the attack, as I've got the bulk of the enemy kind of tied up against me.
In the north, the enemy is attacking with 1 division. We're holding them with 1 division, but barely. We have a reinforcing division that's going to come up and smash their division. We're going to overwhelm them 2-1. Here, they're holding back, so they're giving us a bit of a breather. Down here, they're pushing hard, but we're rushing reinforcements into the town, and we believe we're going to repulse this attack as well and be victorious.
Are there any particular concerns you have right now that you're worried about?
None. My staff is first rate. My troops are excellent. Morale is high. We're winning.
We're doing well. I don't see any reason to panic right now.
Confidence in the Allied army is high. They have interior lines, newly arriving reinforcements, and the French are ripe for defeat in detail. But over the next hour, an unnerving series of reports from the umpires filter back to the Russo-Austrian commanders. Oudinot's wing is offering stiff resistance, even engaging in localized counterattacks. And French pressure around Amstetten continues to be steady and relentless. The Allied players still feel they have the situation under control, even as some doubts and questions arise.
Break this to get through or lose.
Yes.
And that's what this attack is about. So if we can backstop those guys with something, that's great.
That's
we
basic.
only need to hold them long enough for this to matter.
Yeah, and we have, if we're winning here, any of these forces
Right.
can be pulled back this
Right.
direction
And
if we need to.
I mean, these guys are broken. I don't know what we've got over here that's still healthy.
These guys are worn. These 2 units are completely fresh.
I want us to press here while they're falling back.
All right.
Press them.
Yeah, or issue an order if you don't mind. I'm not near the cards, or else I would do it. Order these 3 forces
Yes,
to route
yes.
this force, and we still have these guys as a reserve because I am worried they still have at least 1 cavalry we haven't seen, and 4 battalions potentially that could come down this road. So
Once this
these guys
routes,
are primarily.
it's over.
It's over. Well, this routes, this gets crushed, this gets stopped.
Yeah.
And if this actually exists, it has nowhere good to go.
It hasn't moved. It hasn't done anything.
We don't know.
I don't even
We
know.
don't
if
even
it's-
know where they are.
Yeah.
This is just somewhere out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have we heard from the 11th Hussars recently?
No. We ordered them to come back to
Right.
Amstetten a couple of turns ago. But if these guys attack, they will run into these 2 guys on a hill who are fresh.
Perfect.
There's a reason the Allied commanders haven't heard from the 11th Hussars. The regiment has already been decimated and scattered, but that report hasn't reached the players yet. As the umpire, I love listening to the conversations like these, because while the players are speaking with the utmost confidence, much of what they believe to be true is based on outdated information. They believe the French around Amstetten must be exhausted and spent by now, but in this they are gravely mistaken. In the mid-afternoon, a panicked Russian courier delivers a shocking report. Massed French assault columns, fresh troops, are emerging through the smoke around Amstetten with fixed bayonets from an unexpected direction the IKS team did not anticipate.
Yep. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
We gotta get the Azov Musketeers.
Uh,
Well, they're still under those.
Coming
orders,
at the
but-
double.
I think they're gonna get there in time.
Yeah. This is. They did very well on that attack.
Of course they did. They had to attack column. But I think we can flank them. Let's get these musketeers in there, and we need guns. We need artillery over here.
We don't. It won't come in time.
For the first time in the action, the Allies face a true moment of crisis. The long-awaited French reinforcements from the south are on the field. These are troops the Allies never detected, arriving from a direction that could not be worse for a fully committed Allied defensive line.
Alright, so I think we're reaching the end of the game, and it is getting very, very close.
This is the crisis.
Indeed, it is the crisis point at the moment. So this has devolved into really 2 separate battles. We have the fight in front of Amstetten and the fight in the hills northeast, sorry. In Amstetten, we've stopped a few attacks, but they're forming an assault column, and we need to hold here and hold hard. If we hold here, it's a good draw. We'll be able to hopefully manage to win out of it. In the northeast, I don't know what's happening. This really depends on Nostitz. If he cracks and falls back and is forced to retreat, the French can flank Melvitz and then encircle us at Amstetten. And that's what I worry about the most. But I think if we can hold here at least, if we can destroy them, great. If we can't and it's just a draw, I think we will have still secured a victory. I am just concerned that that is not the case, and that is what occupies my mind right now.
So on the eastern flank, Oudinot is getting overrun by the Austrian reinforcements under Mervelt. Nostitz has also managed to hold his line and has repulsed Ruffin's attack. So the French are essentially losing in the east, but it's a strategic loss because they've drawn the majority of the coalition reinforcements and numbers, and so in Amstetten in the west, the coalition is currently, their line's crumbling. They're fleeing. I think Bagration's about to get captured by a cavalry charge. And so the French reinforcements have arrived and they're overpowering the coalition line in the west. And I think it's going to be not quite decided yet, but it's looking bad for the coalition there. Worse than it is for the French in the east, so we'll see. With the Allied position at Amstetten now in a state of full collapse, Marshal Lannes believes the battle is won. Orders have been sent, repeatedly in fact, for Oudinot to cut off the Allied retreat to the east and complete a masterful envelopment. On paper, it's looking like a textbook masterclass victory for Little Wars TV boys. There's just one problem. General Oudinot's replies have been less frequent and sometimes quite hard to interpret. Has he cut the road yet?
You know, the bad handwriting is a real part of this game right now. We can read about 50% of this message.
I thought I had bad handwriting.
This is terrible.
I mean, we are concerned about
Well,
Miles.
we told Miles to do what he needed to do to preserve his command. He's a smart lad. He'll think of something. He won't let himself get stuck.
We just don't know what Miles is sending us updates. It's just a little hard to tell exactly how much of his force is still good. He hasn't sent us any updates saying, "Oh my God, I'm dying," but it's hard to tell what's going on over there, and we're worried for him. But there's not much we can do about it.
My status is my 2 brigades are pretty well beaten up. We've kind of traded blows with the Austrians. We've delayed them. I've heard from Lannes that he has found the wagons, and we may be able to take them, but my command is pretty much out of the fight. I may be able to rally a few brigades to be a nuisance, but I've done my delay in action, and it's all up to Lannes and Dubas and De Vries.
As you might have guessed, Miles is nowhere close to completing his objective of sealing off the exit to Amstetten. In fact, he's pulled back from the town and is barely hanging on, fending off desperate blows from Nostitz. But critically, he is hanging on just long enough to give Lannes, Dupont, and Murat the time they need to break the Allied position at Amstetten and capture the supply wagons. The capture of General Bagration is the final blow that leads me to call the battle.
Thank you very much.
Really fun. Thank you for having us.
Oh gosh, it's a pleasure.
It was a lot of
I
fun.
look forward to hosting you next year.
There we go. Yeah, I know after any live game, especially this one was maybe the hardest I've ever done. Trying to be realistic and reasonable in my combat resolution. I have a rule set that I'm working from, but it always comes down to umpire, knowledge of the period and the history, and making realistic decisions based on the roles that you're doing. And so being fair and balanced in that regard is challenging as well.
I just tell the truth. It's safer that way.
About how we won.
No, we didn't win. That's one thing I've got to hand it to James. He's the fairest, most impartial umpire I've ever seen. We need to fix that, of course. He cannot be bought. He is incorruptible.
The biggest challenge of being a Kriegsspiel umpire, it's managing organized chaos. There's a lot coming in and a lot of info that's got to come out. Your players are dealing with a heavy fog of war, and their lack of information can be painful.
It's what makes the activity so compelling, because you get these surprises, you get these twists, and if you can kind of surf that wave, then you win, and it makes the victory all that much bigger and better, So you really learn a lot too. You just learn a lot about the tactics and the periods, and and then you can cross-apply a lot of this stuff to real life. A lot of these life lessons, like me learning right now how I'm handling what may be the most crushing and crippling defeat of my Kriegsspiel career. I'm going to learn from this personal disappointment and this experience, and I'll be enriched because of it. So in a way, I kind of win, right? But I want that trophy, darn it.
This trophy is staying home, where it belongs, right here in this club. But what about next year, the 2026 Cup? Could your name be etched next to ours? Entries for the 2026 IKS Cup begin right now. And if you and your friends want to form a team and compete for the Kriegsspiel Cup, you can apply with the organizers, the International Kriegsspiel Society. We'll leave details and links in the video description below. Who knows, maybe you'll get to play in one of the rounds against us. There's only one way to find out. Go sign up.